Hi, everyone. Have you ever spent hours studying, highlighting, and rereading your notes only to look down at your test and think, where did it all go? It's felt like your brain just deleted everything. Sound familiar? Or maybe you've stayed up late cramming every last detail only to feel it slipping away as soon as you put down your pen. I know that feeling all too well. It's exhausting. You give it everything. And yet it's like you're running on a hamster wheel, putting in all this effort, and you still don't get the grades you want or feel confident in what you've learned. For a long time, I thought maybe I just wasn't smart enough, that some people were just born good at school and others, well, weren't. But then I found this book, Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. And it completely flipped everything I thought I knew about learning on its head. It's not about being a natural at academics. It's about how you study, how you practice, and how you train your brain to actually make the information stick. And today, I'm going to share with you 10 powerful tips from this book that helped me go from struggling to making straight A's. Stick around until the end because I've got a story about a student who went from barely passing to top of their class just by using these strategies. So let's do a countdown. 10 powerful strategies from Make It Stick that you can start using today to totally transform the way you learn. Stick around because at the end, I've got a story for you. It's about a student who went from failing nearly every class to making straight A's just by using these tips. Let's dive in. But before we begin, click on the subscribe button and click the like button. 10. Stop rereading and highlighting. Kicking things off with tip number 10. Stop rereading and highlighting. I know. For years, we've been taught to highlight everything like it's going out of style. I used to read my notes 1,000 times thinking I was memorizing them. But really, I was just making the information look familiar. But here's the deal. Rereading and highlighting just give you the illusion that you're learning. The information looks familiar, but that doesn't mean you understand it deeply. Think of it like this. Imagine if you just watched people swim all day and then tried to jump in the deep end. You'd recognize the strokes, sure, but could you really swim? Probably not. Highlighting is the same way. It gives you a false sense of knowing. According to the authors, learning that's easy is like writing in sand, here today and gone tomorrow. Effortful learning, on the other hand, changes the brain and leads to doable memory. 9. Test yourself often and make it hard. Tip number 9. This is a biggie. Test yourself and make it challenging. This isn't about seeing if you can just spit out facts, but really making yourself work to recall information. According to the authors, you're forcing your brain to build pathways to retrieve that knowledge. So, after reading a chapter, close the book and see how much you can write down from memory. Studies show that testing yourself is way more effective than rereading your notes. Think of it like a workout for your mind. The more you lift, the stronger you get. And here's a secret. The harder it feels, the better it's working. Coming in at number 8, spaced practice. You know how cramming the night before is a student's ultimate go-to? Yeah, don't do that. Cramming might help you pass a test the next day, but it's terrible for long-term retention. Instead, break up your study sessions over days or even weeks. Think of your brain like a sponge. It needs time to absorb and solidify information. For example, study a little bit of math on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of doing it all on Sunday night. This way, your brain actually remembers the info longer. Number 7, Interleaving. This is where you mix up different subjects in one study session. So instead of doing only biology for 3 hours, you study biology, math, and history. It sounds harder, right? That's because it is. But this is what makes your brain work harder and remember better. When you constantly switch gears, your brain starts to learn how to recognize patterns and connect different ideas. The result? Way better understanding and memory. It's like going to the gym and doing different exercises. Your muscles grow because they are constantly adapting. The same goes for your brain. If you make it switch gears, it has to work harder, and that makes learning last longer. Tip number 6 is a game changer. Teach what you know. Teaching forces you to explain ideas in your own words, which makes you think about them more deeply. So grab a friend, a classmate, or even a family member and explain concepts to them. This will make sure you really understand it, and it will stick with you. Halfway through, and at number 5, we've got embracing mistakes. Now, this is huge. When you mess up, your brain actually learns better because you're forced to figure out the right answer. So make mistakes. They're an essential part of learning. Don't aim to get everything perfect on the first try. It's like learning to ride a bike. You fall, scrape your knee, and that's how you learn. So don't feel embarrassed by mistakes. Embrace them. Coming in strong at number 4, elaboration. This just means connecting new information to stuff you already know. Think of your brain like a giant web, with each idea linked to another. Let's say you're studying psychology and you're learning about memory. If you've ever learned about computer storage, you could compare human memory to computer memory. Suddenly, it becomes more relatable. Every time you can link new info to something familiar, it sticks better. So the more connections you make, the easier it is to remember new info. Say you're learning about photosynthesis in biology. If you compare it to cooking, plants cooking their own food using sunlight, suddenly it becomes more relatable. Every time you can link new info to something familiar, it sticks better. Tip number 3, visualize what you're learning. When you create mental images, you engage a different part of your brain, which helps you remember better. Our brains are wired to remember images and stories way better than plain facts. Draw diagrams, sketch concepts, or imagine what you're studying as a story in your head. It's like turning your notes into a mini movie. Trust me, this works wonders. We're almost at the top, and at number 2, we have reflection. At the end of a study session, take a few minutes to reflect on what you learned. Ask yourself, what are the main points? How does this fit into what I already know? Reflection helps reinforce learning and gives it meaning. This can be as simple as jotting down a few notes on what you found interesting, surprising, or tough. And finally, at number 1, the most powerful lesson of all, a growth mindset. This is the belief that you can improve and get better with effort. If you think you're just not good at math, then guess what? You'll probably struggle. But if you believe you can get better, you will push through challenges and learn from your mistakes. When you start seeing challenges as opportunities to grow, you'll stop feeling so defeated and start feeling empowered. Stop telling yourself, I'm just not good at this. Start thinking, I can improve, I just haven't figured it out yet. That little shift changes everything. Meet John. Now, John was your typical college student who struggled big time with grades. He hated studying and nothing seemed to work. His grades were so bad he was at risk of failing. He felt stuck, like he was doomed to struggle with school forever. But one day, John's friend mentioned make it stick, and John decided to give these strategies a try, and it changed everything. Here's what John did. First, John ditched the highlighters and the endless rereading. Instead, he started testing himself after each chapter. If he couldn't remember something, he went back, reviewed it, and tried again. By the time he got to test day, he was recalling information way easier than before. John used to cram the night before every test, but now he started studying a bit each day. At first, it felt weird because he wasn't staying up all night anymore. But when test day came, he didn't panic because he knew the material. Spacing out his sessions made the info stick. John also started mixing up his subjects instead of studying just one at a time. He'd go from history to math to biology. It was a bit chaotic, but it forced him to remember each subject's key points, and his brain had to work harder. This practice built a stronger foundation, and he understood the materials better. When his friends struggled with certain topics, John would step in and explain. Teaching made him realize how well he actually understood the material. Plus, his friends started to notice how much he'd improved, which motivated him even more. Before, John hated making mistakes, but now, when he got something wrong, he took the time to figure out why. He started to see his mistakes as stepping stones, not setbacks. This made him way more resilient, and he actually learned from every error. John began connecting new ideas to things he already knew. When he studied chemistry, he related it to his love of cooking. Molecules and reactions started to make sense when he saw them as ingredients in a recipe. By the end of the semester, John was acing his classes and his confidence was through the roof. He no longer dreaded school, and he wasn't just cramming for tests, he was learning for life. The best part? These skills stuck with him beyond school, setting him up for success in college and his future career. John's story shows us that anyone can improve with the right approach. So, if you've ever felt like John, if you're tired of struggling and want to feel confident in your learning, give these tips a shot. Learning doesn't have to be a chore or a mystery. With these strategies, you can make it stick and finally see the hard work pay off. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with students who could benefit from it. And remember, learning is a journey, and with the right tools, it's a journey you can master. See you in the next video. Stay awesome.